everyone, Angela here. Life can be challenging. Trust me, I get it. However, I have learned we can either view the opposition or value the opportunity. Ponder on the problem or praise the potential. Focus on the situation or find the solution. Despite the current circumstances you're going through, I invite you to join me today as we embark on a grand adventure to discover the reasons why it's a good time to be you.
Here's the encourager herself, making every day a good day, Angela Henderson.
Welcome. Thank you so much. We are so glad you are here today. Turn to your neighbor and say, it's a good time to be you. Yes, and it is. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. We have a very exciting show for you today. You know, marriage is just a big job. I mean, it's like really hard work. You know, that's what we hear in the world these days. The general consensus is 40 to 50% of marriages are ending in divorce. What is going on out there? You know, even in Christian families and believers, relationships are being severed and are being destroyed. You know, I can remember years ago when Keith and I first got married, we had our difficult moments too. And it was hard and it was challenging for us. But God was always there to help us, to bring us back together again. It was recently I was at the store and I was shopping for a plaque to go on our wall. We love RVing, and so we had been out a few weekends ago, and there's this spot, this one wall that I knew I was looking for the perfect picture to put on there. And when I saw it, I said, yeah, that sums up our life. And together, they built the life they loved. And so it wasn't always roses and it wasn't always fun and games, but it was worth it. And so today we have an amazing couple with us, Dana and Alex Lopez, who are going to share their story of marital commitment through most difficult seasons of life, but yet they are a role model for others to be able to follow on how to stay together during those difficult moments. And so they're going to share their story with us and walk us through their journey. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Have you ever wondered where I got the phrase, it's a good time to be you? Well, it wasn't because life has always been a bed of roses, but it has been rewarding. Life has many different seasons. Some are more challenging than others. And sometimes we kind of get caught or stuck in an old season when there's a new season that's waiting just ahead. I want to encourage you to untether yourself from the old season so you can move forward in the new things that are waiting for you. So check out my new book on AngelaDHenderson.com and take a journey to discover the many reasons why it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. Now let's welcome Alex and Dana Lopez to the stage. Come on out, you guys. Welcome, welcome. We are so glad you're here. Thank you so much for being with us today. Have a seat right here. Alex, thank you. Have a seat right here, please. Wow. Well, we are just so honored that you folks are with us today to share your story. And I know that it is one that is definitely going to be just so inspiring to our guests today. And so we don't want to take up any of your time and us just chit-chatting. We want to dive right in to, you know, just everything that God has been doing in your lives. So let's start by you guys just telling us a little bit about yourselves and about how long you've been married.
So we've been married 18 years officially. We've been together 20 years.
Wow.
And we did everything backwards. So we got pregnant with our first son 2 or 3 months after we met.
Okay.
And so we started off everything wrong, bought our house, then got married. And so everything was backwards from the very beginning. But we made it work in the beginning. So
yes. Oh my gosh. Well, that's pretty cool. You know, it doesn't matter how we get started, it's how we finish.
Yes.
You know, that's what we have always heard in anything that we set out to do, in any race that we began to run. And so a lot of us start out doing things maybe not quite the way it was intended or the way it was started, but God always promises that He'll turn those things around, when we get Him involved in the picture. So Alex, share with me, what was going through your mind during those 20 years or 18 years and just getting started, and here you are now, just a few months in the relationship and you got a baby, and what was happening in you?
Well, I mean, it was one of those moments when you met your half, when I met her, and it was hard, but we've been through all the process during the years, so we are here now, and there's a lot behind it. So
yes, well, obviously, there is love behind this, because again, 20 years, and the number 20 represents a time of redemption, and the number 18 represents a time of bondage and oppression. And, even in that, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are personally bound. It just means that we are breaking free from that, and that we are being set free from it. And so we can just see how the 20-year relationship, God has redeemed it, and is bringing it into fruition, into the purpose for which, it was destined for you guys to be together. Just in hearing Alex when he says, I met my half, And so that goes to show us that, he definitely found the part that you were missing, and so that's, pretty beautiful where that is said and done. When what was your wedding like when you guys got married and finally decided, okay, well, let's kind of now get caught up here in the scope of things?
I'm sure his perspective might be a little different than mine, but so we were actually at Sears getting clothes for our son, and he kind of led me over to the ring counter and told me to pick out my ring. That was kind of the proposal. And then our wedding was with 8 people, 2 of which were the pastor and his wife, in our living room. So it wasn't a grandiose thing.
Yeah.
But there was something that happened with both of us at that moment, that there was a covenant that we entered into, and we knew it. We knew it. Everything that would transpire later, we knew it. So.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to kind of dive in a little bit about that covenant and kind of some of the things that surrounded the marriage. So please don't go away. We'll be right back. Hey, as a leader, you are a broker of gifts. So whether you are a professional, a business owner, or a ministerial leader, I would love to accompany you in transforming your ordinary staff into an extraordinary team through leadership development, team building, and personal discovery. You will learn the amazing gifts, skills, and talents that each of you have and know how to bring them together in order to do great things. So reach out to me at angeladhenderson.com and let's begin your amazing adventure today. And remember, it's a good time to be you. Welcome back, everyone. We're so glad you're here. We have with us Alex and Dana Lopez, and they are just sharing their story of doing life backwards. And so now we left off where, okay, we're pregnant, we're at Sears, we're getting clothes for the baby, and Alex decides, let's get a ring. But Alex, what was kind of going on even prior to that?
Well, first of all, let's go back a little bit before I came back to the States, because I was in Mexico at that time when she got pregnant.
Wow.
No, when I got pregnant.
Okay, so you didn't artificially inseminate yourself, right?
Okay.
I found out.
When you found out.
So, we kept, talking back and forth,
Yeah.
I'm there, she's here, so we kind of communicating.
Wow.
So one day, I had a call, and she told me that she was pregnant, and everything changed around me, because Mexico is all a different world.
Right.
And to be honest, I had a way out.
Yeah.
Never come back, moving to other state, but inside of me, I was thinking about what what's going to happen to her and to the baby and all that. So,
and you came back.
yes, so I decided, I had to face
Wow.
the situation. So,
That was very noble of you. That was very gallant of you, and truly showing the heart of a father. And Alex, what's so special about your name is it's the defender of man. And so, a protector. And so you knew that you had a responsibility. And so you came back to protect and to guard. And so that's so beautiful. So Dana, what about you? I mean, here you are in Sears now. And were you expecting?
No, and I was relieved. I mean, we kind of talked about it, but at that point, and I was a Christian by then, so there was a part of me that was feeling a lot of condemnation because of things, and I grew up in the church, and so there was a part of me that was relieved that he was finally making that step to bring that union fully committed. And it was just, it was time, I mean, it was really time. By then, Alex was, I don't know, 5 months, 6 months. He was born in September, and that was in February. So he was a few months old, and 2 months after that, we bought our house. So it was just kind of, from there, everything quickly moved to what would seem from the outside looking in, oh, they've got it together. It's the American dream. They're married, they have a baby, they have a house. They have, both of us worked at that time. I had a great job in armed security, insurance, all of the things that you're supposed to have, we had.
Okay.
And then everything changed.
Wow. So here you are. You have dedicated your life to the Lord at this time, and trying to get things on track according to what you were feeling in your heart and how God was directing you. And now things seem to be falling apart. What was happening here? What were some of the struggles that you encountered?
Well, for one thing, there was no alcohol in my family growing up, so we had a lot of cultural things that we had to overcome because he was born and raised in Mexico. He came from a family where alcohol was a normal thing. And one of the first moments that I had the red flags, I guess, was long before we were married. Alex was 2 weeks old, and he didn't come home that night. And he had drank and passed out. And so that was the start of a cycle after cycle after cycle. And for me, that became very difficult, very difficult. And I felt very neglected as a wife. And I felt like my children were being neglected in a lot of ways. And it just spiraled from there for a long time.
Yeah. So. It is challenging when two people come together to decide to, bring their lives and make it as one. But even more so, as you were mentioning, even when cultures are different, because we get a lot of our beliefs based on how we're raised and how we're brought up. And so then when these two cultures come together, there can be lots of collision and also just other issues that come along with that. And each person brings their own issues into a relationship, looking to make a better life despite those things. So I can see how those challenges were arising, at that time. And what else was happening? So
one of the things, too, is that early on in our marriage, obviously we weren't following all the Christian rules. We were pregnant after 2 months. And our dates consisted of going to the clubs, we were dancing, all that stuff. And that was the only real connection that we had outside of he went to work, I was home with the kids, And when I really began to follow Christ, one of the first things that happened was I stopped going to the clubs. And that caused a lot of conflict with us because then we no longer had anything we were doing in common together as a couple. Every day was about work, home, pay the bills, all of that.
So there was no real relationship that had evolved outside of just partying and having, those type of...
Not even friendship.
Yeah.
We didn't even have a friendship for a long time. Yeah.
Wow. So again, just starting off on those bases. Well, we're going to take a break and we'll be back in just a moment, and we're going to find out some more things that transpired in their lives that led to the beautiful relationship that they have now. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Do you have an extraordinary story of when you discovered it was a good time to be you? I bet you do. How about send it on over to us for consideration at it'sagoodtimetobeyou@AngelaDHenderson.com. Welcome back, everyone. So now we're here. We got you guys. You're married. You got the house. You got the children. It looks like everything's, the American dream here. And then you realize you don't even know each other. You don't even know if you like each other. Life is quickly changing. Cultures are clashing. And the party has stopped because, reality and responsibilities have kicked in. So, Alex, I understand here in some part of the story that you shared with our producer that there was a pivotal moment where a transformation took place. So why don't you share with us what happened?
Yes. In all the process that we had, something happened to me that I never expected to happen.
Right.
And it was I believe, consequences of your actions come at one point that, something's got to happen for you to change or make a decision. What happened in my life, it was that I got detained by the immigration, most name, is ICE.
Yes.
So I was taken for a good 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
And I had a very hard time understanding what it is happening.
Right.
But I believe there was God's work on me to somehow put me in a place where I will understand what family is all about, and what decisions to take forward. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, I was having a hard time understanding also what my wife decision was taken in place. Wow. Because we were at the point that everything is going to be, over.
Wow. You mentioned 3 to 4 months, and just looking at how God was setting you up and setting the stage for, to get your attention, to draw you closer to Him. And when we look at those numbers of 3 and 4, 3 represents, that divine unity. So it was a plan of the Father, the Son, and the Spirit to utilize this time to draw your heart towards home. And the number 4 represents productive and of the earth. And so it just wasn't an idea. It wasn't a good thought, but it was something that was meant to produce the desired results, that they were going after, God was going after, in your heart. So Dana, what was happening in your life at that time?
I felt like everything was being shaken that could be shaken on the inside of me. And for the first time in years, I had been a stay-at-home mom. I was homeschooling, and all of a sudden our sole provider was gone. There was a lot of things that I was finding and uncovering because he wasn't there to cover them up anymore. And so there was a lot on the inside of me that I was having to let go of, surrender. I remember one day I was in the chapel and I was like clinging to a chair, just crying, saying, Jesus, I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you go, because I didn't know what to do. And we knew, both of us were in agreement. We felt like God was saying not to pay for an attorney. He was under a deportation order, which, once they make that decision, that's it. Wow. And the Lord told me that day when I was in the chapel, He said, I have him there, and he will follow this process however long he wants to follow this process. And He said, if he comes home, it will be a sign for you that his heart has surrendered to me. Wow. And I said, okay. And at that point, I was going to be okay regardless, whether he came home or he didn't come home. I had such peace on the inside of me that I knew it was going to be okay. I knew who my God was. I knew who my husband was. I knew who my Father was. And in Isaiah 54, it says, no longer will you call me master, but you will call me husband. Yes. And I came to know that as such a real truth in that season. And He no longer was responsible for filling that void in that place in me anymore.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So as you guys were finding the relationship with God, He was putting things in order, you know, so that you could find that love for one another. How beautiful. Well, we're going to take a break and we'll be right back, and they're going to share with us the rest of the story and also just a beautiful treasure that came out of this. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome, everybody. We're so glad to have you. Thank you for coming back and joining us. We're here with the Lopez family as they are just sharing with us how God turned their life around. And so now we see that there has been a surrenderance of the choice and the decision that you're making as God's bringing order into your heart first. So then the order can take place in the relationship. We're discovering that, there's always challenges. But when He is first in our lives, then He takes those differences and He really makes something beautiful, come out of that. Yes. And it's something great that only He could bring in the right ingredients of each person to make that beautiful masterpiece. Yes. And so with that being said, why don't you just kind of share, with life being turned around, how did that process go? What were some things that you guys then had to decide as a couple? What did you do?
Well, the first thing is that we had to learn to actually be a couple. For 15 years, it was like we were running on two different tracks. We lived in the same house. We had somewhat of a relationship, but we didn't have the same goals. We didn't have the same direction. We didn't have the same passions. We didn't have the same values. And when that moment came, we had to learn all over. I mean, it was like we were just dating all over again, because we had to learn how to even communicate with each other. Because before we just lived our own lives, and then we came home, and learning to communicate and the expectations of being a couple was a big, big challenge, and still is. I mean, we still are working on things.
I think everyone is, but that's the key word right there, is working. We are still working on this.
Yes. God, and we're on the same track now. We're going the same direction.
Exactly. God is doing a continual work in us, but He's told us in His Word that He who began the good work is faithful to complete that. So, Alex, what were some things maybe that you felt like during this time of transition and this time of redesigning the relationship, what were you bringing to the table at this time in your decisions?
Well, when I went through that situation, and once again, it was God's miracle on my life to get me out of there without, any other help. One of the things I decided is I will serve Him as I can. So, of course, that required also a decisions that it was very hard for me to take. Like, one of the problems that we had is me working all the time, long hours. I used to work in a restaurant business for 20-some years.
Wow.
But God was one of the things that put on my heart that I had to find me another job.
Okay.
And that was very hard for me, because that's all I knew to do,
That was very brave and very noble, because for a man to just 20 years of being in the same field or the same career and then just up and have to change something like that,
yes.
Yeah, I could see how that was, very stressful and very strenuous. So with that being said, and you guys were making your changes and bringing your changes and working together, what else did y'all come up with then in a new job? So what does that look like now? What are y'all doing?
Well, my question was what I want to do, But, thankfully I'm very handy.
Yeah.
So I figure things out, know how to do things, how to do things. So you say, well, I like to work outside, and I love to do, landscape and all that. So there we are, I decide to start a a landscaping company.
Beautiful.
So until today, that's what I do.
And this was a family business, is that
Correct.
correct? Where even your children were involved, and
Yeah.
that's amazing at how God just brought it all
And
together.
we're working with the VA now too through that, and doing some property management with them, and we're just building community connections that would not have happened if we were still with the restaurant.
And the beautiful thing is that you're doing it together, you know, whereas
Yes.
before your jobs and your lives kind of took you separate ways and you just kind of came home at the same house, you know, at the end of that day or whatever. But now you're truly building the life that you love.
Yes.
And you're working together at it. And it's inclusive of family, which is a beautiful story of restoration, you know, when we thought we were doing everything backwards and God comes in and he just makes it all just right. He just kind of turns it all the way around. So what was something else, Dana? I believe you've got another jewel that's come out of this.
So last year, the Lord told me to write a book. It's called From Messed Up to Blessed Up.
Awesome.
At that time, I was looking for someone, when I was in the thick of the fight, a woman that I could look up to as a mentor that was successfully walking in victory, of fighting for her marriage. And I couldn't find it. I found men who were fighting for their wives and were coming into alignment. I saw women who were in the thick of the fight and were continuing in the thick of the fight. And then I saw people who had divorced and started over. And my heart broke because there wasn't someone for me to look up to say, oh, they did that. They conquered that. I was really struggling with seeing that. And the Lord told me the world needs your story. And so that's what came out of it, was this book, From Messed Up to Blessed Up.
Awesome. And Dana, where can we find this?
It's on Amazon.
Okay, wonderful. So on Amazon.com, From Messed Up to Blessed Up.
And make sure you do the 2, because there's another book on there I found out that has the same title.
Okay, so number 2, look at the number 2. That's cool. And number 2 is a witness. So you have
Amen.
witnessed
Yes.
from what God has done, from being messed up now, witnessing being blessed up. That's great. So Dana and Alex, when did you realize that it was a good time to be you?
I'll let you answer first.
Well, I realized that when I came to realize that without God guidance, we are nothing.
Yes, good deal.
And you know, that I found the true relationship with my wife. They are happy for.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Dana?
Honestly, I think it was the first time that he stood next to me in worship, and I heard him worshiping, and I heard him praying and singing in tongues, and I was so overwhelmed with the goodness of God in that moment, because it was the fruit of a very long battle.
I love it. Well, congratulations to you both for not giving up, even though you might have done things a little bit backwards, you know, and just hanging in there and being an example for others. So how about at the count of 3, we tell everybody it's a good time to be you. 1, 2, 3. It's a good time to be you.